Supporting this channel is simple. Whenever you shop online, just access the affiliate links in the description. Your support is essential for the growth of this project.
In any spiritual tradition, always Sangha, or association, or to be in the right kind of company has always been a very important part of one's growth. Because rarely are there human beings, just a small percentage, who, irrespective of where they are, they will still stay on course. All other human beings need support. If they are not in the right company, there's very little chance of them doing the right things. Unfortunately, that's a reality. It is not necessarily a misfortune, because what this means is they are open to influence. It is the responsibility of the social fabric to create the right atmosphere for every individual to grow towards what is beautiful for the individual and for everybody else around him. But not always, or rarely, societies conduct this responsibility in the right sense, because societies are not led. Societies are allowed to go through a metamorphosis depending upon what is the influence, in that direction it grows. I don't know, I still don't want to believe it. They're telling me over 80% of the content on the internet is pornography. I still don't want to believe that it is possible. But people who are in the know are telling me, Sadhguru, that's how it is. That's a sick world. 80% is a sick world, not a healthy world. So to be under the right kind of influence, an influence which nurtures you towards your ultimate truth, an influence which gives you the necessary courage and strength to walk the path of integrity. Because with a weak sense of integrity, nobody is ever going to be spiritual. And this must be understood, that for bad things to hit you, it need not necessarily be aimed at you. If you just happen to be in the wrong type of ambience, negative things can hit you. That reminds me, 2 terrorists were preparing envelope bombs, postal bombs. After having done quite a few, one asked the other, "Have you filled enough? Do you think we have filled enough RDX into the envelopes?" The other said, "Why don't you open it and see?" He said, "Oh, it will explode if I open it." I said, "You fool, it's not even addressed to you. It need not be addressed to you. You open the wrong can, it'll blow up in your face." This is so in the world, this is so within you. There are lots of bins in your head. You open up the wrong bin, worms will crawl out. You open up another bin, fragrance will come out of it. Have you noticed yourself? Have you yourself noticed within you? If you open certain part of your mind, filth will come out. If you open another part of your mind, fragrance will come out. Have you not noticed? To be conscious enough, to be in the right company so that filth will not be tolerated, so that you open up the fragrance within you, not the filth, is an important part of one's growth. Because you don't have to go looking for a gutter for filth. There is enough in your head, isn't it? It is just that there is enough garbage in every place. There's enough garbage in the ashram also, so many people living. I'm sure there's enough filth. But we sit here with nice breeze and fragrance. We don't go sit there where there is filth. The same goes within you. Within the geography of your body, there is filth and fragrance. Which one do you open up for yourself and everybody around you? That's a big question. That takes a certain level of awareness and a certain company. This is why satsang, to be in the company of truth, very important. If you go around the ashram, the geography of the ashram, there must be at least 8 or 10 very filthy tanks. These are called septic tanks, full of septic. If you every day go sit there, of course you'll come to the conclusion, Isha Yoga Center is the filthiest place on the planet. If you fall into it, Isha Yoga is the most horrible experience in your life. But you're not supposed to fall into that pit, you're supposed to fall into this pit. But you got the geography wrong because you have a wrong history. Your karma is your history, isn't it? Shankaran Pillai decided he is going to be a robber because none of his businesses were working, nobody was giving him a job, so he decided he will go and rob somebody. So he got himself a country-made gun. Late night he walked into a 7-Eleven shop, pointed the gun at the clerk who was there and said, "Give me the money or your geography." The clerk said, "Well, what you mean is history, isn't it?" "Shut up, don't try to change the subject." No, we're not talking about different subjects, there's only one subject, that's you. But you can either fall in this pit or that pit. That will be your experience of life. So to fall into the right place, it is a certain talent. You have to grow into it, you have to mature into it. You always know how to be in the right place. In a way, satsang means just that, communion with truth, or you are building a relationship with truth. If you're in the company of truth, your interiority is pleasant. If your interiority is pleasant, naturally pleasant things come towards you. And you will also have a tendency to move towards pleasant things. If you make your interiority unpleasant, you will attract unpleasant things and you will also move towards unpleasant things. In the ashram, when you get a depression, where do you go and sit? But don't swim in the septic tank because you're in a bad mood. But usually this is the tendency. When you're in a bad mood, you will seek 5 other people who are in a bad mood. No, when you're in a bad mood, you must seek 5 people who are in a good mood, isn't it? No, but that's not the way. When you're in a black mood, you will seek 5 other people who are in the same mode, isn't it? That's just like going to the septic tank for a swim because you're depressed. Wrong way to handle life, that's all. I'm not saying you should not do it. Just not in your favor, that's all. It is just that you have become so self-sufficient, you don't need any enemies anymore in your life. That's a lot of self-sufficiency. So, spiritual process is another thing. To keep physiological cleanliness and psychological cleanliness is the first thing. Otherwise, spirituality will be a battle. It will not be, fragrance of a jasmine upon the spring breeze, no. It will be an uphill task, a battle, all the time a battle. A lot of people experience their life, particularly their spiritual life, as a battle because they do not maintain some fundamental discipline about the geography of their body and the geography of their psychological space. If these two things are not managed, everything will be a battle. Now, you happen to claim that you're spiritual, so that will also be a battle. That's the only way life can be. So, satsang means to make friends with truth. Truth is your friend, not falsehood. You start at whichever level of truth you know. You don't have to start at the ultimate truth, you cannot. However you understand truth, you start with that. You understand truth as, let's say, speaking truth, please start with that. You understand truth as being gentle to everything around you, start with that, it doesn't matter where you start. Whichever way you understand truth, you start from that and see how to take a step every day.
Refer to as a mystic, well, what's that supposed to mean? If there is something here that you do not know and you're unable to understand, that would become mysterious to you. If there is someone here who seems to know and understand a lot of things that a lot of people do not seem to know and understand, that person would become a mystic. On a certain day, 2 cows were grazing on the English meadow, English cows. One cow asked the other, "What is your opinion about the mad cow disease?" The other cow said, "I don't care a hoot, I'm anyway a helicopter." Being a mystic, being a realized being is just like this. A cow realizing that it's a cow and it becomes a celebrated cow. Holy cow, isn't it? Is it that simplistic? So let me tell you my story. It's significant and it's wonderful that TED for the first time happens here in Mysore because this is where I was born. And I grew up not very far from here, where we are right now. So as a child, one thing that I realized was that I was utterly, absolutely ignorant. And everybody around me seemed to know just about everything. I did not know anything at all. So because I did not know anything, I had to pay enormous attention towards everything. Because others seemed to know everything, they could just go about their life happily without paying attention to anything. My sense of attention became like this: if I see a leaf, I could just sit there looking at this leaf, just staring at it for hours. If I sat up in my bed, just staring at the darkness, I could just do this for the whole night. So this attention brought a completely different level of involvement and interaction with just about anything and everything around me, animate and inanimate. But everybody else seemed to know everything and they were just going about their life busy and happy. but I was just staring at every little thing. Then I realized that even they did not know anything. It is just that they had their assumptions and belief systems that they were happy with, either their own or what was handed down to them by someone else. And they not only knew about what is here, they also knew about other worlds, about gods, about heavens and everything. And here I was struggling to figure out what is what. So this so intrigued me that I started planting myself outside a major temple here in Mysore, because I wanted to really see, after having a meeting with God, after having a conversation with God, how people will be. So I stood there intensely observing every face that's walking out of the temple, and generally I heard local gossip. Sometimes in Indian temples, your footwear walks away with someone else, and then I hear people cursing the creation and the creator. I always found people walking out of restaurants always had more joyful faces than people walking out of temples. Divine versus dosa. Dosa seems to win. I could not come to terms with this, and so I slowly became more and more and more skeptical about everybody and everything around me. Skeptical about social structures, political systems, religious beliefs, even scientific theories, because none of them match with my experience of life. On a certain day, I started moving towards Chamandi Hill. You must see this place. And there is a tradition in Mysore. If you have something to do, you go to Chamandi Hill. If you have nothing to do, you go to Chamandi Hill. If you fall in love, you go to Chamandi Hill. If you fall out, you go to Chamandi Hill. I had just fallen out and I had nothing to do, so I started moving towards Chamandi Hill. And I went up and sat on a rock there. Till that moment in my life, I always thought, this is me, and that's somebody else and something else. But for the first time, I did not know which is me and which is not me. Suddenly, what was me was just all over the place. The very rock on which I was sitting, the air that I breathed, the very atmosphere around me, I had just exploded into everything. That sounds like utter insanity. This, I thought, lasted for 10 to 15 minutes. But when I came back to my normal consciousness, I was about 4.5 hours. I was sitting there, fully conscious, eyes open, but time had just flipped in my experience. For the first time in my adult life, tears were flowing down, and I've always been peaceful and happy, that was not an issue, but here I was drenched in a completely different kind of blissfulness, every cell in my body bursting with ecstasy. When I shook my head and trying to get some logical explanation for what's happening to me, the only thing that my very smart mind could say was, maybe I'm just going off my rocker. This experience, as it deepened and it started repeating itself, if I just sit here, what is moments for me seem to be hours for others. I think it's a minute, hours are gone. On a certain day, I happened to be sitting in a certain place. I actually thought it's about 25–30 minutes, but when I came to my normal senses, 13 days had gone by. I was sitting right there. India being what it is, a whole crowd had gathered, garlands around my neck, people touching my feet, somebody wants to know what will happen to his business, somebody wants to know when his daughter will get married. All the things that I hated were just happening around me. And I had to move away from this place just to avoid this crowd around me. And as this experience deepened into me, one thing that happened to me was, everything that I believed was me suddenly was not me. This was always me. And suddenly I found this is just an accumulation of food that I've eaten. What I accumulate can be mine but can never be me. This was just a huge heap of impressions in my mind. And this body and mind, not being me but just being mine, a distance arose between me and my body, between me and my mind. This also facilitated a certain experience within me, that suddenly the equation of time and space was suddenly not applicable for me. I was seeing that what is here is there, what is there is here, past, present and future got mixed up. It was one majestic chaos. but utterly beautiful. So my skeptical mind, not able to come to terms with it, started conducting experiments. These experiments are too weird to talk about and the results too fairy tale-ish for anybody to believe. But one thing that I arrived at was that existence is not human-centric. And all human experience is self-made. Most people believe that their experience is molded by what situations in which they exist, but all human experience is 100% self-created from within. I think today a lot of science is beginning to agree with that. And having realized that, if all experience is created from within, if the basis of your experience is within you, the seat of your experience is within you as it is, what kind of experience of life would you want to have? For yourself, I'm sure you want it to be at most pleasantness, whatever you may be doing. What you want for your neighbor may be debatable, but what you want for yourself, definitely you want utmost pleasantness. As I realized the basis of my experience is within me, I shifted from staring at things to sitting with my eyes closed. This was a dimensional shift in my life, from staring to sitting with my eyes closed. I got so fascinated with this human mechanism, I wouldn't want to open my eyes. For days on end, I'm just keeping my eyes closed, wanting to see everything about this one. And what I realized was, if I take a piece of bread and put it into this system, this piece of bread becomes my body in a few hours and I begin to experience this as myself. This amazing process, as I became more and more aware of it, I saw the very source of creation, the very maker of this body, the manufacturer of this body is within. Once I saw this and I could see that I could rewire my brains completely in 24 hours, changing myself beyond social upbringing, family situations, even genetic qualities in me, I could see I could just completely change everything about myself. In 24 hours, I'm a different person. Another 24 hours, I'm a different person. I was like a conscious schizophrenic trying out different things. On a certain day, I just, in a field hockey game, I fractured my left ankle and I went and sat down in a place. I was in excruciating pain, and by then I had also become a chronic asthmatic and I had a very severe bout of asthma. And this pain and this inability to breathe together, they were quite something. At that moment it occurred to me, if the maker of this body is inside, why is it that I cannot mend this from inside? I sat down with a certain resolve. If this is true, I must be able to allow it to mend itself, otherwise I must be completely on a wrong track. I sat down with my eyes closed for about little more than an hour. When I came out, my asthma left me, never to come back again. And above all, my fractured leg was perfectly okay in little more than an hour's time. Armed with this experience, I started creating methods and systems through which every human being could access that intelligence and that capability within the system which can make a piece of bread into a human being. This intelligence and this competence within the human system, which is not just about thought process, exists in every human being, but unfortunately remains untapped. And I went about creating systems that people could make use of today, these technologies for inner well-being, these methods to engineer your interiority the way you want it. Millions of people are making use of it, enjoying the benefits of that, but the essential part of this is that there is such a high level of intelligence and competence on every millimeter of the body, every point of the body, not just in the thought process. This is completely untapped by human societies. There are ways to do this, and as I went into this process, what I saw was, what is it that determines what is me and what is not me? I am capable of taking a piece of bread and making it into myself. If I look at this body, it is just a piece of this planet that I have borrowed, but why is this separate and this is separate? Then I found that it is just the boundaries of sensation which determines what is me and what is not me. Here there is sensation, so this is me. There seems I don't feel the sensation, so that's not me. As I looked at these boundaries of sensation very, very closely from within myself, this was a phase of my life where most of the time I remained with my eyes closed. I realized that the boundaries of sensation can either be stretched, expanded, or even made smaller than what it is right now. You can sit here and not feel anything that's happening here right now. This happens in sleep to some extent. Or you can sit here and extend your boundaries of your sensation for this whole hall. And anything that is within the boundaries of your sensation, you will always experience as myself. There is a glass of water here, and this is not me, that's very clear. But if you drink it, you just included it into the boundaries of your sensation, and that becomes you. So if you throw the boundary of your sensation out in an expanded form, you can sit here and experience everybody in this hall as yourself. You can stretch it further, experience the very cosmic scape like you experience your own body. This sense of inclusiveness, if it comes into you, when this came into me, I suddenly realized that to be loving is not somebody's teaching. To be compassionate is not an idea. To be in empathy is not some esoteric principle. This is the way a human being is made, if only he does not constipate his consciousness with limited identifications with things that he is not. If you do not identify with anything that you have accumulated over a period of time, including your body and mind, every human being is capable of this. When it comes to external situations, each one of us are differently capable. But when it comes to inner situations, every one of us is equally capable. No human being is better endowed than the other when it comes to the inner realm. It's only in the external situations that we are all differently capable. If this inclusiveness enters human life, if you can sit here and experience people around you as yourself, I don't think I have to teach you to be good. I don't think I have to teach you to love. I don't think I have to teach you to care. Because caring for this one is very, very natural. This is ingrained within the very nature of the existence. This inclusiveness definitely has to touch humanity, so this became my life, my work and my endeavor to develop methods so that people can experience this inclusiveness. If this inclusiveness is experienced by humanity, particularly by the leadership, people who wield power and different aspects of responsibility in the world, definitely we could find solutions for everything, because today, we as a generation of people, this is very significant, for the first time, we are capable of addressing every human problem on this planet of nourishment, health, education, ecology, you name it, we can address it all. We have the necessary resource, capability and technology for the very first time. But are we going to do it simply depends upon how inclusive is our experience of life. If you stand here and you experience this planet as yourself, I don't think I have to tell you, take care of it. Every human being would do his best. When we do not have this inclusiveness, what we could do, we will not do. In our lives, if we do not do what we cannot do, that is not a problem. But if we do not do what we can do, we are a disaster. My hope and my work is just to see that we as a generation of people do not become that kind of a disaster, that what we can do, we will definitely do. And right now what we can do compared to what we could do 100 years ago is so incredibly different. So incredibly different. But what's missing is an all-inclusive consciousness, an all-inclusive experience of life. If only we bring this about in the leadership, in the people, only then we will seek solutions that are relevant for all. Otherwise, we'll go about dabbling, creating… In the name of creating solutions, we go about creating more and more problems. If we truly have to create solutions that are relevant for all, an experience of absolute inclusiveness has to happen to humanity, and it's possible. Thank you very much.
Continued, I would have never faced my present predicament. Now, the Bhujangasana or cobra position, which is also known as Mackenzie something, is critical for the health of my spine. There are many other asanas or positions which can help me get my strength back as I feel a little better and able to practice those. The asanas will not only help gain my physical strength, but it will contribute to my mental strength through the meditational aspects of yoga. I thought I will share my most recent experience so that others like me in similar lifestyle situations can also learn and prevent the situation that I am in. Let's do yoga every day and not just one day in the year. Thank you.
May I now offer the floor to the distinguished permanent representative of Georgia, Excellency.
I was thinking about asking questions, but in fact, it's not as much as asking questions, but how what you told us echoes in all of us. And it really does, because what we take from here, from all this wonderful conversation that we just had, is how complex things are indeed very simple if we indeed try to. As a person who is really honored and humbled to be here as a representative of my country, who was one of the 177 who co-sponsored Yoga International Day, I'm also practitioner, or rather a very bad student to the school that I'm attending. That school is called Yoga in Daily Life, which is in the United States, in many parts of Eastern Europe particularly, but headquartered in Rajasthan, in Kathu, led by Vishwaguru Sri Swami Maheshwaranandaji. And what I learned from my personal experience, because after all, the oneness is sharing these personal experiences also, is what Patanjali said, that it's about having your mind free of disturbances. And if we indeed attain to be free of disturbances, we find peace with our mind that can really transcend and somehow start this chain reaction of peacefulness and oneness that we all long for, particularly in this organization. I'm glad that we have so many colleagues by now, or calling from Bangladesh. My good friend who sits next to me is also avid yoga practitioner, and many. And it is indeed probably high time what you just mentioned when Prime Minister of India said that we needed International Day of Yoga. It came indeed on a right time, and I'm glad that I was here on the right moment and right time. Thank you for your presence here. Thank you for your blessing. And indeed, if we try to, I think we can really attain that we are without disturbance, and we find this oneness and unity, and we tick those 17 goals one by one. And I really hope to, and I'm looking forward to that day when we will no longer have this beautiful poster behind you, because we will have that completed. Because SDGs, in a way, to me, is somehow a manifestation of our common failure too, that we have to talk about SDGs. But it's good that we are starting to talk about it, and we are making it happen. Hopefully, and I believe in that, yoga will create that oneness that will permeate our work in this organization, in this chamber, and otherwise. Thank you very much. Om Shanti.
May I now offer the floor to the distinguished permanent representative of Liechtenstein. Excellency, you have the floor.
I came from the probably most non-spiritual angle possible to yoga. I was essentially dragged against my will 17 years ago by a then girlfriend into yoga class, and I viewed myself as this big soccer player and cyclist and all these other things, and thought really this is not for me. And to my credit, I had to say already after the class, well, there is something there, and that is something that is worth exploring. And I've been doing yoga ever since. And if there's one thing that I believe I will be doing until the end of my life, it is yoga, because everyone can do it. Every person of every age, of every state of health, really, yoga is for everyone, which is, I think, one of its wonderful qualities. The other thing is, even if you come from that non-spiritual place that I came from, you realize over time that something happens with you, and that there is for me today no other way of connecting with myself, with my mind, with my body, the way I can in yoga. Sometimes I find out when I do yoga that before I did it, I didn't know how I was that day. And the moment I do it, I feel how I am, and I'm able to connect to myself, and that's also, I think, really the precondition for being able to connect with others. In looking at the theme and in thinking about this, for me the connection is very simple. The SDG agenda, tells us we know what the problems are, we know what the solutions are, we have to simply change our ways to get there, and then we can do this together. And I think this is where yoga can make a huge contribution. If you think it's not for you, try it one time, and I think it will be for many of you. Actually, I think it is for everybody. And one of my, small moments of happiness in life today is to take a person to yoga, because that just makes you happy. And this is why I'm offering a class tomorrow morning to some of you in the room, and you're gonna come say it with many others, and I really look forward to that. Thank you so much.
For now, I have the honor to recognize another yoga master we have with us. In fact, Yogamata Kaiko Aikawa has joined us for this event all the way from Japan.
Dear distinguished guests, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, spiritually, I come from a tradition and lineage that from the time immemorial have kept and shared with humanity the teachings of yoga. Yoga is a science that, especially with meditation, facilitates the harmony of the body, the emotions, and the mind. When these elements are in harmony, the individual becomes calm and peaceful in his heart. If the individual is calm and peaceful in his heart, this permeates in the community and thus in the world. I can attest from my own experience that by learning these practices, it is possible for everyone to awaken your own energies and achieve peace, love, and harmony. I deeply believe that if we as individuals feel peace and harmony in ourselves, that this will lead to love and peace being spread throughout the world. I thank you very much for enabling me to be present today.
Thank you, Yogamata, for that message of love. May I now offer the floor to the distinguished permanent representative of Nepal.
I come from Nepal, from the eastern hills of Nepal, a place, an environment which is extremely conducive for yoga, and I also come from a family and community practicing yoga. But then I'm always worried about this question of accessibility. It has to do with the commercialization of yoga today. The commercialization and hundreds and thousands of the different types of yoga getting into the heads of young minds and different ages of people, mostly also in terms of fashion, in the forms of fashion. What would be your wise guidance to us to deal with the perhaps unnecessary or over-commercialization of yoga?
Whatever becomes reasonably popular, there will be enterprise around that. You shouldn't be surprised when you step out on the Times Square, people will be selling yoga t-shirts and yoga whatever, okay? We shouldn't be distracted or disturbed by these things. This is a part of a social thing, it happens. At the same time, the core of yoga is not disturbed in any way. On the surface, there are small distortions here and there. I would say for the larger public to start with, like this year when, about 4 months ago, when I came to know that over 9,000 children below 18 years of age committed suicide in India, and over 1,700 below 13 years of age committed suicide. I just thought, if our children start committing suicide, we are doing something fundamentally wrong. A child is a fresh life, a child is an exuberant life. A child should be a bundle of joy, but instead of that, they're deciding to take their own life, which is deeply disturbing. This is not a statement about the child who took his life, but this is a statement about all of us. What are we doing with our societies? So, off the cuff, I said, let's touch 10,000 schools. But today, with the cooperation of various state governments, we are touching nearly 30,000 schools, over 20 million children. Why I'm saying this, why this has become possible is because we are offering what is called as Upa-yoga. Upa-yoga means pre-yoga or sub-yoga. Why this effort towards Upa-yoga is, if you offer yoga, however innocuous the practice may look to start with, it has a spiritual dimension to it. Transmitting spiritual dimension to an unconscious population who are not ready for it, and without a certain level of expertise in the teachers, could be responsible over a period of time. So, we are teaching Upa-yoga, which has mainly physiological and psychological benefits, and here you can't do anything wrong, it's on the video. All the teacher has to do is make corrections and make sure people are not doing it wrong. I think it's a good way to spread yoga in the world is through Upa-yoga. Upa-yoga, the word Upa-yoga in Indian languages today has acquired the meaning of being useful, but actually it originates from this, that it's a pre-yoga or sub-yoga, or a startup yoga it is. And it's best to start that way with large populations, because when you start off an unconscious spiritual process for people, many of them may not be ready for it, even if it's a good thing. Even if good thing happens to you when you're not ready for it, things may not work very well. So, Upa-yoga is a very distinct way and a safe way to take yoga to the world large scale. After this happens, once they feel the benefits, once they experience what difference it makes, they will naturally seek yoga in a more serious manner, and that is when yoga should come into their lives. This could solve the concern that you expressed, but at the same time, somebody is doing something funny in the name of yoga, it doesn't concern me, because those things will always happen. But it's good that even commercial establishments are talking yoga. This means it's really on.
I will now call upon Mr. Herman Bravo, who is the president of the Yoga Club right here at the UN. Mr. Bravo, you have the floor.
Yoga is more than an instrument of personal transformation. Yoga has, as many of the speakers have mentioned, particularly Sadhguru, a social dimension. All that because the word yoga, as Tao remember us, yoga means union. Union between the body and the mind. Union between us and other human beings. Union between human beings and nature. And it is because of that interdependence and that interconnection that we are able to solve many of the problems. We have many problems, but we have to be optimistic, because the solution is by changing ourselves. Many of these strategies organized by the UN, they have a political meaning. They have the access to technologies, and they have the will at the political level. But all that is not going to work unless we go at the individual level. Yoga means personal transformation. And because of that, the International Day of Yoga should be a wonderful opportunity to remind all of us that every day in our life should be a yoga day. Namaste.
Thank you. I now give the floor to Ms. Neta Menabde, who is the Executive Director of the Office of the World Health Organization here at the United Nations. Ms. Menabde, you have the floor.
It's a great pleasure and an honor to attend this celebration today. And indeed, this is a very unusual event for the United Nations, because it is deeply reflective and it's not composed of a prepared speeches that people deliver in a more formal way. It actually moves all of us here to think deeply of what is being said, what is being done, what is being conveyed by you here, and how we can individually and collectively respond to this call of the International Yoga Day. I have spent 5 years of my life in India before coming here in New York. And of course, for me, it's something very special to be here today at this day. And it's special because you mentioned, Sadhguru, that we cannot call or compare and say that yoga is Indian, but it comes from India. And indeed, it is India's gift to the humankind, to all over the world. And it is very special because of that. And I could see the impact of yoga practice on communities in India. So it makes a difference, and this is why this is such a great gift of civilization. The whole country in India, every quarter of it, breathes essence of yoga. And it is the civilization calm of yoga that has moved me when I was there. In my work, we are dealing with health issues. It is no news now that yoga is very good for health, but we also know now that health is no longer a standalone one of the Sustainable Development Goals. It is actually determinant for any other goal to be achieved. Therefore, yoga has a very different meaning and different, indeed, interconnecting nature, because it does help people to feel better, live better, breathe better, act better, unite better, come into interconnectedness, which is indeed essential for sustaining our planet and connects planet to people. So therefore, of course, we know today, proven through many clinical trials, that yoga helps in many conditions, mental health conditions, depression, heart conditions, many other conditions, joint and so on. So this is not new. But there has been traditional resistance to integrate yoga practice and other perhaps traditional medicine practices, which are, of course, available worldwide, but known also in India, to integrate them to the allopathic medicine. And this resistance is slowly being overcome. We as WHO are trying to put our support into this process. Recently, this year in May, in fact, India has signed an, I would say, landmark agreement with the World Health Organization to promote traditional medicine, yoga included, and to ensure quality and safety of these traditional practices, but more so to integrate these practices into our health services, primary health care, and all other services that we know. So it is now deeply understood that as all of human beings need some or another kind of health services, be it vaccination if they are very healthy, or any other more serious services, they also need to practice yoga because it prevents many illnesses. It also gives peace of mind. It teaches us how to cope with all those different things that modern life stress puts on human brain. And therefore, we stand forward and we want to support promotion and inclusion of yoga into medical practice all over the world. We will collaborate with India on that. But my question to you would be, is there any good secret beyond of what you have said? How we can bring these different dimensions of health together, integrate them in a better way, and make sure that yoga is no longer seen as something separate from what we do in health services traditionally. Thank you. Thank you very much for being here today.
When our commitment has to shift to health, not to a particular system, people are married to a particular system most of the time, and they defend that system at any cost, no matter what. Every system in the world has something to contribute. But instead of being committed to health, we are committed to those systems. Because of this, there has been a lot of dislocation in how health can come about. So in southern India, in the rural part of Tamil Nadu, we brought this about, these 5 dimensions: allopathy, Siddha, Ayurveda, Unani and Yoga together practice along with the naturopathy way of doing things. It has done miraculous things to the populations. We were the first pilot project by the Ayush project when it started 10 years ago. Now Ayush has become a ministry. I think yesterday or in the last week they've declared a Ayush University, which means Ayurveda, Yoga, Siddha and all these things put together. This we started almost 15 years ago, and today it is an active part. What we have done is, we have medical vans which go with an allopathic doctor and a Siddha doctor, plus we have created over 112 or 13 village gardens where we grow herbs, over 100 and odd different types of herbs in a common piece of land where people are taught how to make use of it. For small things like stomachache, headache, fever for the children, diarrhea, these kind of things, all our grandmothers knew how to treat this. Unfortunately, even for these, people are going to the doctors today, and the way it is being treated with elaborate medication, generally in rural India, the cost of the medicine, if you fall sick for 15 days, it takes a year for you to recover. With the economics of the family, gets hit for almost a year. If 15 days somebody is down and they visit the doctor, and the volume of medication and treatment that happens kind of economically sets them back quite a bit. So our commitment is to health, not to a particular system. And right now, the government of India is doing serious efforts to integrate this thing, and we've been doing this for over 15 years very effectively. I must tell you, a simple thing in rural India which can be… I was just last 1 week I was in Africa, even there I thought this is something that'll work. We created what is called as a wave of health. About simple things, how health can be created within the family, for every family. One of the things that was done, I won't go into all the details, one simple thing we did was, every home should have a papaya tree, a banana tree, a murungu tree and a patch of greens. This transformed health situations in such a big way. You won't believe such a small initiative, such a simple initiative, what a difference it has done to people's lives. Like this small initiative can be brought because considering the economics of those families, it's very important we need to come up with solutions that works for them. In this, yoga practice has a significant role because creating a vibrant, healthy, vibrant and effervescent population is very, very important to fulfill the sustainable goals. If we don't create that kind of population, we will be only talking about sustainability, it will not happen. We need to create this, and the goal is the tools of self-transformation should not be in the hands of a guru or an organization or some other authority. The idea is to bring this into everybody's life. Like today, everybody owns a toothbrush, which has created oral health. Just like that, everybody should have some tools for self-transformation. It is with this kind of commitment that we are going ahead, and there is a big support now in the world, wherever we go. In the remotest parts of Africa that I was there in the last 1 week, it was incredible to see that all of them know about yoga. I know this 25 years ago when I went into rural India in a big way, they knew what is Coca-Cola, but they did not know what is yoga. But today in the remotest part of Africa, people know what is yoga. This is transformation in many ways.
Thank you, Sadhguruji. And Tao, would you like to reflect on this question?
I'd like to thank you all. There's been so much beauty in this room and so much intelligence of what the world is all about and what we are all about and what we're going to do about it. And I think that it's absolutely fantastic to sit here and listen to all of the things that I've pondered for so many years and wondered about, not always finding the answers. But today was a revelation and a very special thing to happen to the whole world. In this room, you've started something that we've needed for a long time. It's out in the open now. Yoga is beautiful, but yoga is only beautiful if we use it and we make it part of our lives. I want to thank you all.
I now give the floor to Mr. Rajiv Lalla, who has joined us all the way from Texas.
If you could help us understand the role of a guru, of a teacher, not in the true academic sense where a STEM professor teaches me science and technology, but rather coming from humanity and that union among all of us.
When you say a Sadhguru, you're saying an uneducated guru. That's what it means. Because you don't come to a Sadhguru to know about the scriptures, you don't come to Sadhguru to know about rituals. Because the only thing that I know is, I know this piece of life from its origin to its ultimate, and this is all I know. By knowing this, by inference, you know just about everything because everything is made the same way. Today there is something called as a constructional theory, where they're talking about how the atom and the cosmos are essentially fundamentally same design, only the sophistication and complexity is multiplying. So the amoeba and you and me are made the same way, only the complexity has multiplied. Having said that, in what way is a guru relevant means, you're trying to walk on uncharted terrain. Every year, I trek in the Himalayas, in Nepal and Tibet. Once you go into the mountains, that illiterate Sherpa who is there, who has not been to school, but if he says right, you turn right, if he says left, you turn left. You better do that, otherwise you won't come back. You do that because he knows the terrain. The same goes for this. This is just an inner terrain. It's best to walk with somebody who's already walked the path. Otherwise, simple things will become complicated. What is next door, you will go around the world and come back to it. All this complication about, for example, today if you utter the word meditation, people think something very difficult to do. To put it simply, first of all, the word meditation, English word meditation, does not describe anything in particular. If you sit with your eyes closed, they're saying you're meditating. With your eyes closed, you can do japa, tapa, dharana, dhyana, samadhi, shunya, there are any number of things you could do. Or you might have just mastered the art of sleeping in vertical postures. It happens. So, when we say meditation, we must understand it's not an act, it is a quality. It is like you want flowers in your garden. If you want flowers in your garden, you don't have to sit there and do flower meditation. You don't have to think flowers. You have to think soil, manure, water, sunlight. Have nothing to do with flowers. But if you do those things, flowers will happen because it's a consequence. Right now, because we have gotten into this madness of being a goal-oriented society, we are interested in the flower, we are not interested in the plant. This is the fundamental that the yoga will change within you. You understand that you have to handle the process right for a consequence to happen. So in yoga there is a saying that if you're goal-oriented, your one eye will be on the goal. That means you will find your way only with one eye, which is an inefficient way of doing things. If you use both your eyes to find your way, it's much more efficient. So, why is a guru needed? It can be done without it. I'm asking you a simple question. Even to learn ABC, the alphabet, you needed a teacher. But you could have learnt it by yourself, maybe you would have taken a lifetime, but the teacher taught it to you in a month or two. That's a big difference. So, like somebody was talking to me and They asked, what is this guru about? I said, this is the GPS, a living GPS, a guru positioning system, you know. If you want to find your way, it's best in uncharted terrain, unknown terrain, it's best to walk with somebody who's already done the terrain once or many times. Otherwise, simple things will become very complex.
It's my pleasure to recognize Ms. Denise Cotto, who is the chair of the International Yoga Day Committee at the United Nations and an executive board member of the United Nations Staff Recreation Council Enlightenment Society. Denise, you have the floor.
The International Day of Yoga Committee at the UN came into existence last year in the summer after the first International Day of Yoga. Sri Chinmoy, years ago, his vision was to have peace meditations with the staff, and he started the yoga club, which German is the president of. How do you see the UN system, meaning the secretarial staff who work here, the diplomats from the different countries, business, and the NGOs, civil society, who try to implement the SDGs? How do you see yoga bringing us all together? Thank you so much.
This is being said again and again about peace. So we need to look at this. When we say peace or mental peace as people are talking about it, today even so-called spiritual leaders are talking about peace being the highest goal in one's life. But I would like to ask you, please look at your life and see. If you want to enjoy your dinner tonight, even if you're not ecstatic, at least you must be peaceful to enjoy your dinner. If you want to enjoy the people around you, at least you must be peaceful and happy. If you want to enjoy your walk on the street, you must be peaceful and happy, otherwise it's not possible. So what is very fundamental to… a fundamental requirement in our life, unfortunately we are pushing it as an ultimate goal of our life. To be peaceful is not the highest thing, it is the most basic requirement. If a human being cannot even be peaceful, there is really nothing that they can do. This means that you're not even able to harness your body and mind the way you should. To look at it from one perspective, all human experience has a chemical basis to it. What you call as peace is a certain kind of chemistry, what you call as joy is another kind of chemistry, blissfulness another, ecstasy another, agony another kind, anxiety, fear, stress, tension. If we want to live well, both externally and internally, how well we live here simply depends on how well we manage our surroundings and how well we manage ourselves. Fundamentally, life is management. If you don't know how to maintain your body, your mind, your emotion, your situations, your life in general, your home, your communities, nations and the world, the quality of our life is just how well we manage things with ourselves. But generally, we are thinking of management, we are applying ourselves to management only in terms of business management or industry management or… Generally, we are talking management only with economic situations, not life as a whole. In many ways, it's unfortunate that today the most predominant factor that rules the planet has become economics. The other aspects of life have been totally pushed to the corner. When economics rules, when economics is the only thing that we are thinking about, we will tend to become very gross and unhappy in so many ways. What I see is, we are conducting various levels of programs to very top-level executives in some big corporations in the world, major corporations in the world. What I see is people who have failed in their lives, they're suffering their failure. People who have succeeded in their life, they're suffering their success.
If you suffer your failure, it's okay, because failure comes easy. If you suffer your success, that is tragedy, because success doesn't come easy. So, something that you worked for, something that you always longed for, something that you wanted to create in your life, when it happens, if you start suffering that, that's the real tragedy of life. But a large number of successful people on the planet are suffering their success. When I say suffering their success, if you look at people, look at yourself and see, you're still young people, most of you. When you're 5 years of age, how happy you were, and today how happy you are. If we make a chart out of it, a graph out of it, is it moving upward or downward? In 24 hours' time, how many moments are you really happy? If you look at this, is it going up or down? Is it going up or down? Down. So that means you're a bad manager. Because after all, everything that you did in your life is in pursuit of happiness, isn't it? All that you're doing in your life, you're doing it because you believe that is your happiness. You educate yourself, you pursue careers, you build families, you run after your ambitions. So many things you do because somewhere you believe fulfilling those things will bring you happiness. After doing all that, if happiness is not multiplying, it is going down, that means you are a bad manager of yourself. Anybody who does not know how to manage his own body, his own mind, his own emotion and his energies, if he is managing outside situations, he is only managing them by accident, not by intent, the way he wants it. Because if you do not know how to manage your mind, how to manage your energies, how to manage your interiority, managing the outside is bound to be accidental. When you manage situations by accident, you exist as an accident. When you exist as an accident, you are a potential calamity. When you exist as a potential calamity, being anxious all the time becomes a natural part of life. Anywhere you go today, people are talking stress management. Especially a few years ago when I first went to United States, wherever I go, people were talking stress management. I could not understand why anybody wants to manage his stress. I can understand you want to manage your business, your finance, your family, your property, whatever, but why would you want to manage stress? It took me a while to understand these people have come to the conclusion that there is no other way to live. Somehow people have come to the conclusion that if you do things in the world, you're bound to be stressful. One is not stressful because of what they're doing. One is stressful because he's a bad manager of himself. He doesn't know how to manage his own systems. That is why he's stressful. It is not the nature of the job which makes one stressful. You ask a chaparasi, he is also stressful. You ask the top executive, he is also stressful. Everybody believes their job is stressful. No job is stressful. If you have no control over your own systems, you will be stressful. Whether you do something or you don't do anything, isn't it so? See, management means… fundamentally, management means we want to decide the course of our destiny. That's management, isn't it? We don't want to live here by accident. We want to take our lives where we want to go. That's management, isn't it so? If you're managing by accident, you are not a manager. Without you, things will run better. So once you say, I'm a manager, that means somewhere you have decided that you want to go in a particular way. You want to have a certain kind of situation, both inward and outward. So everybody is a manager in his own capacity, but in different levels and different types. Whether you manage a kitchen where you cook for 4 people, or you manage a large industry where 10,000 people work, fundamentally, if you want to have a good kitchen or a good industry, you must be a good manager of that situation, isn't it? So whether you're managing a little kitchen or a large industry, if you want to manage outside situations, generally you will have to manage material and people around you. If you have to manage 10 people or 10,000 people around you, you have to manage 10 minds or 10,000 minds around you. But if you have no management over your own mind, you managing 10,000 minds is going to be a disaster. In the process of doing something, if we are destroying human beings, which is happening right now, in the process of managing a situation, the man is broken, then this kind of management is no good, because after all, every management that we do is only for human well-being. If we are doing management for human well-being, in the process of doing something, in the process of managing situations, it is not only about producing something or making profit. Human beings should rise to their full potential. If we manage a situation properly, in simple process of working, you and the people who are working with you should be able to raise to their full potential. When I say rising to full potential, not just work potential, but as human beings, they must be able to rise to their full potential. If people work together, then people should be able to rise to the peak of their love, peace, compassion within themselves. If this doesn't happen, then it's bad management, because all management, the basic intent is human well-being. If that is not happening, you're just producing something, you're making little profit, but human beings are getting broken in the process, it doesn't mean anything. So if this kind of management has to happen, that just in managing a business, you find people around you raise to their peak, then you have to spend a certain amount of time in focusing on your inner management. If this doesn't happen, you will only manage situations by accident. A lot of people have understood management as a way of throwing their weight around. Can I tell you a joke? Are you okay? On a certain day, a lion was really feeling great within himself. He just was walking and a little rabbit was going, he caught him and roared at him, "Who is the king of the jungle?" The little rabbit, terrified, said, You, of course you." He let him go, swaggered around a little bit. Then he found a fox, caught him, "Who is the king of the jungle?" "Oh my lord, it's you, of course, nobody else but you." Then he swaggered around a little bit, caught a few more animals, everybody screamed out of fear, "You are the king of the jungle." Then he was in full swagger, like a manager, king of the jungle. Walked into a clearing in the jungle, there was a huge tusker standing. He went, stood in front of him and asked, "Who is the king of the jungle?" The tusker took his trunk, rolled him up, picked him up, twirled him around, smashed him to the ground. His back broke. Then the lion said, "You could have just told me." But the tusker said, "You see, I had to make my point." So, a lot of people generally are thinking management means just throwing their weight around. Throwing your weight around is not management, any fool can do that. If you manage a situation, not just things happening there, people should feel elevated, just being in that space. Otherwise, it is not management. Above all, if you go to a place and you manage a situation, you must feel wonderful being there. If that doesn't happen, you are not a good manager. So if this has to happen, you need an inner dimension. When I say inner dimension, what is inner dimension? When I say inner, I'm not just talking about the body or the mind, because both this body and mind you gathered from outside in certain ways, isn't it? For example, this physical body, when you were a child, this body was only this much. now it's become this much. How did this happen? How did this happen? That's a question. How did this happen? You grew up, how did it happen, I'm asking? I'm sorry? How did it happen? How did all this body happen? Food that you ate, isn't it? What you call as my body is actually a heap of food that you gathered. What you call as food is just a piece of earth that you convert it into food and make it into body, isn't it? So this body is just a heap of food that you gathered over a period of time. What you call as my mind is a heap of impressions that you gathered from outside. Now you have a heap of food and a heap of impressions. If this much gathering has to happen, something more than this must exist, isn't it? If you are capable of gathering such a large body and so much mind, there must be something more fundamental than this. But that never comes into your experience. You're just lost in these two heaps, trying to make some sense out of it. Now, as there is a science, as there is a management science for external well-being, there is a management for science for inner well-being. It is just that most of the time we have not approached it scientifically. We're just believing by doing something, somehow everything will be okay. Right now, people are thinking by educating themselves they will live happily ever after, which you will discover after some time it's not so. By getting a job, they think they're going to be happy ever after, which you will discover it is not so. By making money, you think you're going to be happy ever after, you will discover it is not so. Somebody thinks by getting married they're going to be ever after, and they know it is not so. So, you're trying to somehow fool yourself into believing that by doing something everything will be okay. Though repeatedly it has let you down, still you believe that something else, some other miracle will make everything okay. It'll not be okay. It once happened. On a certain day, a bull and a pheasant were grazing on the field. You know a bull? A pheasant, a bird. The bull was grazing on the grass, the pheasant was picking ticks off the bull, they're partners, you know. Then the pheasant looked at a huge tree which was at the edge of the field and very nostalgically said, "Alas, there was a time when I could fly to the topmost branch of the tree, but today I do not have the strength even to fly to the first branch of the tree." The bull very nonchalantly said, "That's no problem. Eat a little bit of my dung every day. You will see, within a fortnight's time you will reach the top of the tree." The pheasant said, "Oh, come off it. How is that possible?" The bull said, "Really, please try and see. The whole humanity is on it. You could try too." Very hesitantly, the pheasant started pecking at the dung, and lo, on the very first day it reached the first branch of the tree. In a fortnight's time, it reached the topmost branch of the tree. It just went and sat on the topmost branch and just looking at the scenery, enjoying it. The old farmer saw a fat old pheasant on the top of the tree. He took out his shotgun and shot him off the tree. So the moral of the story is, even bullshit can get you to the top, but never lets you stay there. So, if you are seeking a life of fulfillment, if you are seeking a life of joy and peace and well-being within yourself, don't try to bull yourself in some way. You must do the right thing, otherwise it won't work. Now that you are managers or to be managers, probably, definitely, I hope they have taught you that unless you do the right thing, it doesn't work with outside. The same goes with the inside. Unless you do the right thing, it just doesn't work. You may just bull yourself to believe that this will make me all right, that will make me all right. Yes, for a moment, but the next moment you crash. Please see, successful people, unsuccessful people, just look at their lives and see in 24 hours, how many moments are they really joyful? How many? You go on the street and see how many joyful faces do you see on the street? Very, very few, isn't it so? Yes? If you see any, usually they are young faces. Over 30 faces are all long faces. What's happened to them? For most of them, their lives have worked out far better than they ever imagined. If you look at yourself as a generation, never before another generation of people have been this comfortable and this well physically as you are right now, isn't it? Isn't it so? We are the most comfortable generation. No other generation has known these kind of comforts and conveniences. But still, are we any happier than what people were? This is simply because we did not do inner management. We just did external management, no inner management. In the process of creating what we want, the very source of our life, this planet, we're just destroying, isn't it? In pursuit of our happiness, we are just making a bonfire out of this planet. But still we are not satisfied, nor are we any more joyful than what we were 500 years ago as people were, isn't it? So somewhere we have neglected the interiority. So to turn inward, what is needed? One reason why most young people here have never made any effort to turn inward is because today, any thinking person, the moment he can read ABC, speak English and he has extra alphabets next to his name, he develops an allergy towards anything spiritual. This is not your fault. These so-called spiritual people have made such jokers out of themselves. They have presented spirituality in such terrible ways, ridiculous ways, that anybody who has any sense doesn't want to go anywhere near it. See, a spirituality means to know something which is beyond the physical. Right now, if you exist as a physical entity, as a body, as a mind, because both these things are accumulations from outside, whatever happens outside will happen inside. If what happens outside begins to happen within you all the time, then you being peaceful and happy is always accidental. Because it doesn't matter who you are, how powerful you are, how great a manager you are, external situations will never be 100% in your control. That's the nature of the life. Even if you're just two people in the family, still you don't have absolute control over the situation, isn't it so? As the scope and play of your life increases, you have less and less control over the situations in which you live. That's the reality of life. So if whatever is happening outside is happening within you, you being peaceful and happy in your life is a faraway thing, it's never going to happen. Only when a person begins to experience a dimension beyond the physical within himself, then he can play with the physical world whichever way he wants. He can do the best that he can do with the outside world, but the interiority is undisturbed, always the way you want it. The outside world will not happen the way we want it 100%. At least the inner world should happen the way we want it, isn't it so? Isn't it so? The outside will never happen 100% the way we want it. That's the reality of life. But at least this one should happen the way we want it. If this is also not happening the way you want it, if your body, if your mind, if your emotions, if your energies are not functioning the way you want it, then this is the worst kind of slavery, because somebody else decides what should happen within you. If somebody else decides what should happen around you, that itself you call it slavery, isn't it so? Yes? Are we in talking terms or no? Oh, that's fine. If somebody decides what should happen around you, that itself you call as slavery. But if someone decides what should happen within you, is it not a more horrible way of being a slave? But please see, the whole world is in it. The only consolation is everybody is like this. Now that you're learning management as a science, I would like you to understand there is a whole science of inner management. If you don't learn that, you may manage businesses, you may manage industry, but still you will not live a life of fulfillment and well-being. If you want to live a life of fulfillment and well-being and offer the same to people around you, it's extremely important you know what it means to manage your interiority. I really don't know how you feel today going out of probably the last step of your education, or at least one step of your education, a major step of your education. Because when I studied in the university, I did not go to my convocation. Somewhere, right from my childhood… Are you okay for a story? Right from my childhood, the education that I received, though they sent me to the best possible schools around, it didn't mean anything to me because my sense of listening and looking at people was such. When the teachers were talking whatever, chemistry, biology or mathematics, one thing I could clearly see was whatever they were saying didn't mean a damn thing to them. And I was not willing to listen to anything from somebody who is talking something which doesn't mean anything to him. So, I always looked at the teacher. If he put his heart into it, I'm willing to be there, otherwise I'm out. Because somewhere I have so many things on my agenda for the day. 24 hours are packed with too many things. I'm not willing to spend an hour or even 5 minutes listening to someone who is talking something which doesn't mean anything to him. Even if he's talking nonsense, it doesn't matter. If it means something to him, I'm willing to listen to it. But if he's talking great things which don't mean anything to him, I'm not willing to listen to him. So as a part of this, I spent… Your education is over so I can talk. I spent almost 90% of my college hours outside, only 10% inside. Only when I saw somebody who is talking something with passion, I'm there. Otherwise, I'm just out. Now, this education, I'm repeatedly telling Dr. Majumdar and a few other people around here, I'm happy to see somebody's talking with some passion about what they're doing. Somebody, it doesn't matter what they're doing is right, wrong, okay, perfect or not, but someone has put his heart into it, it's okay, because human lives becomes beautiful not because we do the right things. Human lives become beautiful because we put our heart into what we're doing. It doesn't matter what we're doing, whether we are sweeping the floor or managing the country or what we are doing, if we are putting our heart into what we are doing, it's beautiful to be doing that activity. So I think it's a fortune that I've just seen a few people, I hope everybody here is putting their hearts into what they're doing and living in an atmosphere where people are passionate about what they're doing itself is highly enriching. Now that you're stepping into the world, not that you don't know, but anyway, now you're stepping into the world in a different dimension than the way you have been till now. Once you step into the world, there's going to be a lot of filth. There is corruption, there is nonsense, there is so many things happening everywhere. There are some set of people, a certain set of people, who will develop an allergy for this filth. They can't stand it. They usually run to the Himalayas because they're allergic to filth, they can't take it. They want everything pure. But such a thing will not happen because the filth of the world has one way or the other has entered our minds. Whether we empower that filth or not is all the option that we have. But we cannot avoid filth, it is there. All the nonsense that can happen in the world, you know in your head, isn't it? So one set of people develop allergy and try to run away, which they can never do, really. Another set of people, a large segment of people, unfortunately, have come to their own kind of philosophies. Anyway, world is full of filth, let me also become filth. So they have joined that, they have merged into the filth. What we call as filth can also be great manure, Indian spirituality has always used lotus as a symbolism. A lotus flower has always been the main symbolism for Indian spirituality. Why a lotus flower is? A lotus flower grows best where the filth is thick. This filth, which is stinking, which you can't bear, has transformed itself into a fragrant, beautiful flower. This option also is with us every moment of our life. If the atmospheres that we live in make us… we cannot call ourselves managers. If we make the atmospheres that we live in, only then we can call ourselves managers. Being a manager means that we are going to create whatever we see as the most beautiful thing to happen right now. Allowing situations to create you is not management at all. Creating the situations that we want is management. As many of them have said many things, this process of education, there is a certain acceleration now that education is over, you're stepping into a new dimension of life, the excitement and it's always beautiful to step into something new that you believe is going to be wonderful. But what we have seen with life with most people is, now let's say somebody got a job, the first day when they went and sat behind this table was the most fantastic place in the world. But within a few years, behind the same table, they're manufacturing blood pressure, diabetes, ulcers and whatnot. This is not because there is something wrong with the jobs that we do. This is not because there is something wrong with the world that we live in. It is simply because we have not paid sufficient attention to ourselves. We have paid too much attention to what is outside. To succeed in the world, people are always thinking, great aspirations will make you successful. Aspiration is just an initial starting point. Just because you aspire for success, just because you aspire for prosperity, just because you aspire for well-being, it doesn't happen. Success, prosperity, well-being happens because you have made yourself capable of creating those things. Everybody aspires. Who is not aspiring for success in the world? Everybody is aspiring. Even a beggar on the street is trying to be a successful beggar, isn't it so? Every human being is aspiring for it, but only those who have made themselves capable will succeed. Making yourself capable not only in terms of management skills and other things, but that is needed too, but making yourself capable as a human being to go through situations untouched, to be like a lotus flower, even if you're in the filthiest of situations, to maintain your beauty and fragrance. If one has this, he will float through this life untouched. If one doesn't have it, life will eat him up in so many ways. It's my wish and my blessing that this new set of managers will manage this world, this country, this community, and the business and commerce, which is part of our existence today in the world, in a much better way than the previous generations of people have done, because externally we are better equipped than ever before. If we make a little effort, it's a fortune that an institution has made an effort to equip you internally to whatever extent it was possible for them. If you equip yourself for internal management also, I'm sure that this group of people and many more who will pass out of this institution should definitely manage this world, this nation and the communities much, much better than the way it's been done till now. When it comes to management, there's no such thing as perfect management. It is just that if people give themselves absolutely to what they're doing, things will happen. Right now, the Isha Foundation, Dr. Karthikeyan, after seeing what's happening there, that's how he's been into this. It is run by all young people, the whole foundation. We have hundreds of centers in India and outside the country. Everything is managed by very young people. People who have been with us for 14, 15 years, they are just in their early 30s now. Very, very young people. No senior people, no experienced people, just young people, raw hands. I took this as a challenge to make it happen through them, not using any kind of experience. I'm not against experience, I'm not against that, but I wanted to make a statement that incredible things can be done, not because we know how to do it. Incredible things can be done simply because we are committed that we want it to happen, that's all. Today, this has grown into a voluntary organization with over 200,000 active volunteers around the world. And we have taken enormous projects of social significance. All these things are handled by volunteers. They're not paid for it, they spend from their own pockets and do things. And you need to understand, managing these people, managing volunteers is much more difficult than managing paid employees, because you can't fire them. You can never fire them for inefficiency or indiscipline or whatever, because they're there on a voluntary basis. So, people who manage these situations, very young people without any qualifications, they are such fantastic managers of people. The way they manage the situations, the way they conduct thousands of people has set such a exemplary example in the community there. I would take this opportunity someday that when it's possible you visit Isha Yoga Center as to how things are managed, so simply, because management doesn't come… I know you need to learn about finance, this, that, banking and those kind of things, but fundamentally management is your ability to be capable of inspiring people to do their best. And that's all we can do. If everybody around us are doing their best, that's the best possible management that can happen. So this is not going to come with manipulation, this is only going to come with dedication, this is only going to come with love, this is only going to come because you are willing to give yourself 100% to the person who is next to you at that moment. Oh, is all this possible? Is it not all utopian? You think this is the reality in the corporate sector? I'm telling you, we are working in the prisons, we are working in rural areas, we are working with major corporations in the world. It doesn't matter what kind of person you meet. If you just learn to touch the core of his humanity, then you see every human being is willing to do his best for you.
always. If you just learn how to touch the very core of a human being who is around you right now, you will see everybody is willing to lay their lives down for you. Only if people around you love you and they want to do the best for you, you will not get ulcers doing management. If people around you are trying to pull you down, you will anyway get ulcers trying to manage situations, isn't it? If you do not create the people who truly love us and wanting to give their best, then management is going to be a pain. Management is going to be a huge suffering. Only when people around us really want to do the best for you, only then management can happen wonderfully. It's my wish and my blessing that all of you turn out as truly great managers of yourself and the world around you. Our lives become beautiful not because of what we do. Our lives becomes beautiful simply because we have included everybody around us as a part of our dream of well-being. I hope all of you become truly successful and well. In whatever way, with inner technologies, if you need any help, we are always available to you. It's been a joy to be here in this institution. I've been to any number of colleges. People are the same, but creating an institution with some sense of commitment for inner well-being in today's world is… I'm too happy. Thank you.
We appreciate you being part of this incredible journey. Keep exploring our channel for more inspiration and transformative insights.